Hey all, it's Dinosa, and doing a quick review because I was asked to go see a movie this week called Jobs, which I saw it a little earlier today, and gotta say that the movie did do a couple things. One, inspired people to create, I'll give it that, but also really showed the real personality of Steve Jobs. I was really surprised. And on one hand, with this movie, the I know it's a testament that what he brought to the world and everything, but really, if you think about the whole movie, first of all, I want to say Ashton Kutcher did a fantastic job. He nailed it perfectly. He nailed the. If you watch the old commercials and how he did the lectures and saw Ashton Kutcher did, probably one of his best acting jobs ever. I'm not a big Ashton Kutcher fan, but that was really just perfectly nailed it. Really good there. Um, but what the whole thing entails of is simply Steve Jobs and how the whole film starts really the creation of Apple computers and his vision and the conflicts that he had to deal with that vision. Um, Mainly the conflicts of between his family, his friends, corporate greed, the consumers, really everyone. And one of the things that the whole film touches on is that he was really relentless on what he wanted to accomplish. And some of the things you think about here that make total sense today and is totally common today, you have to remember, didn't exist back then. See, I grew up in the era with the '80s with Atari 2600, which Jobs worked there. Steve Jobs worked at the Atari, one of the first, most popular video game system. I think it even lasts longer than the PlayStation. But what you have to understand is that this was a generational change. You see, what happened is Steve Jobs was on a quest. He was on a quest of motivation. He was on something, trying to find something to do, and he was really good at what he did. The problem is that he was a complete jerk. I mean, he had hygiene issues, shoes he didn't want to wear, he wanted to be barefoot, he wanted to be himself. And he had some good, loyal people that were with him, but he ended up showing, as his companies grew, he ended up forgetting these people, and a lot of them were betrayed by their trust, or just he didn't care enough about them to consider them friends, and which was kind of cruel on many levels, but it is business. Um, some of it, what I really enjoyed the most about the film, though, it showed some of his qualities that he was just a complete asshole. And the film nails it in the beginning. It's like, you know what, you are good. You are damn good. You're just an asshole. And it shows it throughout the film. Him parking in handicapped spots. Him treating employees just horrendously bad. Just a volatile environment. Because he had this vision, and anyone that didn't agree with his vision or the logic or anyone, unless they were a board member or above him, didn't have any say. Um, but before that, what interesting enough is the film barely touches the concept of Bill Gates, where he actually knew Bill Gates. They were like friends. Bill Gates wasn't really that instrumental with Apple, other than the fact that Bill Gates basically bailed out and saved Apple. And really, that whole bailout of Apple was so the antitrust and monopoly police of the U.S. government didn't shut down Microsoft. That's what happened there. If y'all want to look at the history of that, Microsoft basically saved Apple. And Apple was about to go under. So all those iPods, iPads, everything wouldn't have existed without Microsoft bailing them out. Unfortunately, they don't get a little credit. But one of the little revenges they got is part of that bailout. On all Apple software now, they have a boot camp software, which now you could run Windows product on a Macintosh machine. And that is the ultimate revenge for that. But Bill Gates at the time. But anyway, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. What it talks about is Bill Gates, how he, like many people in college in that era in the 70s, high on hallucinogens and everything, went to India, went to all these different places, trying to find truth, philosophy, whatever. And he ended up working at Atari, and Atari was building games, and Atari was working on like such as Pong, and they worked on Breakout and a few other games. Atari 2600 was one of the most popular video games in systems. Some of the games that were developed by Atari and put onto the Atari 2600 was because of Steve Jobs. Now that's what we've been told. That's not 100% the truth, because the truth is that Steve Wozniak, who was the co-founder of Apple, had the technical knowledge. And he basically came in and saved Jobs' career at Apple. And they did this in the middle of the night where Wozniak came in, did everything, and Jobs is up there in the film like, oh, I'm badass and all that. And, Wozniak is the one who did it on that. So, but here's where it gets ugly. Atari told Jobs if he could get this thing running, it would cost, they'd give him $5,000. When he went to Wozniak and said, when Steve Wozniak asked how much you're going to be paid, in the movie they said $700. Or he said $700, which everyone in the audience is like, wow, you really undercutting him that badly? Now later on, Wozniak talked about that he didn't care about the money at the time. He really didn't. He just wanted to help out Jobs, and if Jobs really needed that money, he should have come clean to begin with. But Jobs is dead now, so who knows what really the truth was. Atari is essentially out of those facilities where they used to be at. So what it gets in while this crusade with Atari and the successful games that Wozniak helped create, Wozniak showed Jobs this new thing he's been working on that uses a keyboard which you can attach to a television monitor for word processing. And at this point, Jobs, everything changed for him. He wanted to market this. He wanted to do this. He saw the future in this. And this is where he starts to become obsessive about it, because he saw the potential and he was grabbing it as fast as he possibly could. But the thing is, it also blinded him. It got him to the point where his girlfriend, I think a wife, came to him and said, I'm pregnant. And he said, it's not my kid, because I was in India. It's very improbable it's my kid, and get out of my ass, and threw her out of his house. And I was like, what the heck? And everyone else who was there, who Apple computers were being built in a garage, was like, what the heck? What's going on? But they were just like, oh, it's just Steve. And he said he regretted. That was the legendary where he denied his daughter, because he was so busy with Apple and trying to make Apple something it is today. Well, they eventually start making some deals, and they start in a garage, which is in Jobs' parents' garage, where they start building these computers, and they sold it to a local company, which then that company turned in and just didn't really place an order, but then Intel heard about them and then wanted to invest. And then thus they started inventing, and then this eventually led to the Apple II. Now, this group who came up with this, these were misfits. Like the main technician guy, he was a motorcycle riding dude, and all he wanted to do was build a power supply that could fit like this big and make no noise. He's like, it's going to cost you $200 a day. He's like, okay, didn't have the money. Just said, all right. So they get it in there, they get it, they did, but the thing's a smash hit. Because what they essentially did is the Apple II brought personal computing to the masses, which, as growing up in school, it was a special thing to see an Apple II. I played Robot Odyssey and a few other things on the Apple II. Karateka, Conan. I played a lot of things on that. And, And he had this vision. All right, so then he kept wanting. As the business grew and Apple's success came, Jobs became more and more distant to the people that got him there. And what happened was is that when it came time to incorporate or separate stock, he really undercutted a lot of people. Wozniak wasn't undercutted, but some of the people that back in the garage helped him were undercut. They didn't get anything. And his reasoning is they're low-level technicians that could have gotten anyone here to do that. They were not contributors. I told them what to do. So, and that was like really cold on that for guys that started in the garage and weren't getting paid, and you don't give them stock, but they still hang on believing here. I mean, I know I wouldn't have. If I known I was undercut like that, I would have made a public exit on him to show what a scumbag he kind of was. He did this. He gave some people some. I think he did at the end give some things, but it wasn't really that known. But then eventually what happened was is that his project started getting so out of control, he was worrying the board members that were above Apple, saying like, we're spending too much money. And then they said, you are no longer out. They literally, this was 1985 when they kicked Steve Jobs out of Apple. Which then they take it on. They kicked him out of Apple. And, no, is it 1950? Yeah, I think no, it was 1980, I believe, when they kicked him out. No, they first kicked him out of the Apple II division, or otherwise known as Elisa. On that, they kicked him out there, and then he started working in this little group called the Macintosh division, which then he started to build this Macintosh computer, which thus the very famous 1984 Apple Macintosh commercial came on and showed all that. So it shows his rise, but also shows all these different aspects of how he undercut a lot of people on that. And eventually, even with the Macintosh rise, they're like, you did this, you messed us over. And then there's corporate greed that gets involved. And then he becomes more distant to his friends and more corporate greed. And then eventually, when he gets thrown out of his company, he makes things right with his family and accepts that his daughter is his own. Then comes back. And then what I don't like about it is at the end of the film, they paint him as this great saint and what he has done for humanity. And really, if you boil down what the film says, Steve Wozniak is the one who got the technical knowledge. All Jobs did was have the inspiration and the ability to sell it and show the world. He had technical knowledge, there's no doubt about that. But Wozniak could not sell it like Jobs could. Jobs sold the product, and that's why he became the legend. As the phrase goes, win the crowd, win your freedom. And that's what Jobs did, basically, is he won the crowds. He won the people, he won the popular vote. They threw him out of Rome, they begged him to come back, and he saved it. Now, he didn't save it alone. Let's put a big asterisk there, because when he came back in the 90s, Bill Gates pumped in I think it was some like $400 or $40 million to save Apple. And that was, again, all to stop the Justice Department from shutting Microsoft down for a monopoly. So that's the thing, the flaw of the film, I think, is they paint him as a complete asshole, which is totally true, and they paint him as a saint. And the only scene to Bill Gates was that he kind of copied with using Microsoft Windows, which, yes and no, but it became Prove It. And I don't know, they didn't really do beyond that. But Steve Jobs was not the saint or the visionary. Yeah, he had a vision, he had an idea, but he backstabbed a lot of people to get there. And as an individual, it's kind of sad. Sad, but as a visionary, yeah, he had the vision, but sometimes crazy people have the visions that none of us see. But then you can't ignore reality that his biggest competitor is the one that saved him. So anyway, this is Dinosa. Go check it out. It's actually a decent movie, but it's about Jobs. Bye.